And with that, folks, we've gone ahead and logged on to ChatGPT. And so I'd like to welcome you for the first time, or if you're a returning customer, welcome again to your ChatGPT free user interface. And before we really dive into all of the tips and tricks and features, I do want to provide you with a tour of the user interface so that we begin to become more familiar with where things are placed, some of the key items, and so on. As you can see, one of the great things about ChatGPT is that it's pretty minimalistic in the interface, meaning that it plays quite well with whatever browser you want to use. In this case, I'm using Chrome. Let's go ahead and start our journey on the top left-hand side of the screen. If we scroll on over there, we can open up the sidebar panel here. And there's a couple of key things I want to draw your attention to when it comes to the sidebar. As soon as you open up the sidebar, you'll notice that you have the option to search. So you can actually search chats based on keywords to help you find prompts. You can go ahead and start a new chat at any time by clicking on this icon. And then taking a look at our first sub-menu here, we have three different features. The first option is ChatGPT. What that allows us to do is just at any point in time navigate on over to the main homepage. Now, that might not seem necessary, but once we start actually exploring GPTs and adding custom GPTs, they will actually populate on this screen, on this menu here as well. And so it's good to know that you can bounce between them at any point in time. You also have the library. So anytime that you ask ChatGPT to create an image for you, what it'll do is it'll save that image in the prompt, but it'll also add it to your image library here. So you have quick and easy access to any of the creative work, any of the created images you've asked ChatGPT to develop for you. And what's great about it is that you can click on any of these images, you can see a timestamp of when it was created, you can edit the image further, you can even download and save the image to your PC, tablet, phone, etc. And then this icon here will actually bring you over to the chat. And it'll bring you to the exact location, the exact prompt that was used to create it. So again, this is another quick way to quickly navigate to your prompts, especially over time as you begin to do 50, 60, hundreds, and plus of prompts. You're going to see that this screen gets pretty cluttered. You may not always find what you're looking for, so you can utilize the search feature or the library to get access to those. Right down below the library tab, we have the Explore GPTs option. So here's where you'll find what I like to call the App Store or the GPT Store, where you can go ahead and find several GPTs, customized GPTs, and then add them to your library. If you haven't heard of GPTs before, no worries, we'll talk more about them later on in the course. And then down below at the very end of the sidebar, here you have your prompt history. So you can see any prompts that you've engaged ChatGPT in over the past 30 days. Now the free version, you will have a limit on 30 days of records. So you can see I can't go farther back than that. If I had the Plus or Pro subscription, I can continue scrolling down and go see prompts that were months back and so on. But at least within the last 30 days, you can view and quickly see it. If you do for some reason have a prompt that you want to access that was beyond the 30 days, it doesn't mean it's disappeared. What you would want to do is just go ahead and use the search feature. So it's still there because it's still using, ChatGPT is still pulling its memory and learning from that prompt, but it just won't readily appear on this prompt tab here. All right, so let's go ahead and navigate back on over to the main ChatGPT homepage by giving this button a click here on the sidebar. We're brought on over to the homepage, and I'm actually going to go ahead and close the sidebar here for a second. Now we can focus more on the center left side of our screen here. Right here you have ChatGPT. This is more useful when you have the Pro and Plus subscription because this is actually where you would go to switch from those models that I talked about. As we discussed earlier in our course, there are different models you can choose from, 4 Omni, 4 Omni Mini, O3 Mini, and they're all specialized and catered to having specific skills. Because we're in the free version, we're going to be using the default, which is ChatGPT4 Omni or 4 Omni Mini. But if we did upgrade, you'd be able to see those models and you can go ahead and select them and change them. Now let's navigate on over to the top right-hand side of our screen here, and there are two icons I want to draw your attention to. The first one is temporary chat. We'll go more in depth as to what temporary chat is, but sort of the quick hand version, as we talked about earlier, AI learns from the data that we put into it. Meaning that as we continue to communicate with ChatGPT, it'll actually save memories of those prompts of that data so that it can learn how to respond to us, it can learn our mannerisms, it can learn the way that we approve of it responding to us. Now, every now and then, there are going to be some times where we want to ask ChatGPT a question, get some analysis, but it could be private or sensitive information. And so we don't want ChatGPT to pull from that data into its learned memory banks. Well, one of the ways that we can get around that is actually by utilizing the temporary chat. If you give this button a click, you'll see that the prompt box changes. And essentially what it says is that the chat won't appear in history. It won't update ChatGPT's memories or be used to train the model. So if privacy and sensitive information is a concern of yours, please feel free to use the temporary chat. And the great thing about it is whenever you're done, you can go ahead and just head back up to the top right-hand side of the screen, give that a click, and it'll go back to the standard chat. And then to the far right-hand side on the top, we have a couple of different functions. Here's we can access our profile information. We can access the Explore GPTs menu, customize ChatGPT, and the all-important settings. And again, we'll talk a lot more about those as we go on. And then last but not least on our tour, I'm going to direct your attention to the center of our screen here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so we can see this a bit more in depth. And here is where the magic really happens with ChatGPT. Here is the prompt box. So anytime I have a question, I have some instructions, I need to get clarification, I can put in those texts there. And what you'll actually see is that ChatGPT is smart. So as I begin typing, it'll use its memory to perhaps try to fill in what it is I might be looking for. This is very familiar for phone users or even Google Chrome. Oftentimes when we're typing in on a web browser, whether it's Chrome, Edge, or etc., or even on our phone, you'll see that predictive text technology taking place. And not many people know that that's actually a form of artificial intelligence. It's using probabilities to predict your next outcome. Right? So I can go ahead and put in a chat there. We'll be good to go. Within the prompt box, we have a couple of features I want to direct your attention to. On the left-hand side, we have this plus icon. If you click on that, you'll actually be able to upload files into ChatGPT for your prompts. If we go ahead and click the next button, click here, you'll notice that it goes blue. And what that means is that we are now using the web search feature. And again, we'll talk about all these features more in depth, but yes, you can actually utilize ChatGPT as sort of an AI-powered, super enhanced web browser, web searcher tool, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. To the right of that, we have our reasoning models. So when you click on reasoning, essentially what you're asking ChatGPT to do is to think logically and actually list out its steps on how it got to its conclusion. So if I give it a prompt asking, how does generative AI impact the workforce over the next 10 years? And I click on reasoning, it'll actually list out step by step how it came to the conclusions it did. It's a great way, one, to just verify that your AI is working the way you want it to, but also it can help you learn and understand how these AI tools learn and think, and perhaps even help you understand how you're logically looking at a situation. Then over here you have deep research. So as a free member, you have 5 prompts available to utilize this deep research function. And this is a very advanced tool. And so if you're a beginner to ChatGPT, of course, always dabble and learn, but it's okay if you don't feel comfortable using this feature yet. Really what it's gonna do is focus in on being your AI assistant for research. So we're talking about pulling insider sources, being able to really do prolonged and even what we call mega prompting. And you do have a limitation, but you have 5 prompts available until May 30th. At that time, it'll actually reset to give you another 5. To the right of that, we have the create image feature, so we can actually utilize the created images. And then if you remember from our tour earlier in the video, you can actually access any of those created images by clicking the sidebar and then navigating over to the library. Now there is a feature that's hidden. If you might miss it if you don't notice it, but if you click on this more options icon, you will actually open up and see that there's another feature you can utilize, which is Canvas. Now Canvas is a collaboration tool between your AI and yourself. But this time what Canvas does, which is really great, is it allows you to work on something in real time. So you can make suggestions, ask for feedback, without necessarily having to input a prompt, wait for a response. Input a prompt, wait for a response. In Canvas, you and ChatGPT AI are working more hand in hand, and you can make your edits in real time. And then last but not least, we have 2 voice features that are available. The first one is Dictate. If I go ahead and click on Dictate, you assuming that I have a microphone or a computer that can handle my voice, it'll actually take what I'm saying vocally and then translate it to text. So speech to text, if you're familiar with that on your phones, tablets, or devices. And then last but not least, we have our voice mode. So as I mentioned, as a free user, you do have limited use for the advanced voice features, but you do have access to the standard voice chat. And what I mean voice chat is you are literally having a conversation back and forth with the AI. You can select the voice and tone that it has, and you can have full-fledged conversations with the AI responding in real time. So as you can see, there are a ton of really exciting features when it comes to ChatGPT free. Now that we got that tour done with, we can really start to dive deep into how to prompt, and then later on taking a look at all of these fantastic features there.